All right. So like I said, thanks for joining. I'm going to share my screen right now. So I was thinking, yeah, we could just hop into, there's 50 NL running. This is I just fixed what I hope I fixed a bug. So I just want to make sure that it really quickly worked. And if not, I might just need to like revert back. I was in here messing around a little bit and noticed some things that weren't working correctly. So. But in the meantime, I guess that doesn't stop us from hopping in here. So that was an easy one.
So the HUD that you have up here, that's from your own tool?
I mean, the HUD's in Poker Tracker, but my tool writes to it. So like these notes that are popping up right now, I'll stay and fold. But so like these notes are popping up were me scanning and like auto-generating my own ones. So in this one, it's looking at the profile like traits that kind of like you mentioned before when you introduced me to your one friend. Those get brought in, and then it also shows like some perception-based stuff. So like how often were they at the table when they saw us use bluffs and value? If you're ever like seeing someone enough where like the meta might become important. Okay, here's one that's playable. All right, so open the sevens, and it's folded. So, all right, here's another playable one. Open the kings. Or 3-bet the kings. And we'll see if we get a call. All right, so here's the good one. I'm imagining this is going to be, the range is going to be wanting a betting a lot. I think we have a lot of, maybe we don't have a ton of jacks this early, like jack type configurations, but I think I want to bet small just because it's a paired board. Okay, cool. Get the call, then we'll sit out. So I guess on kings, early config, 3-bet, jack 9-9. Where does your trained mind go before I jump into any tools here?
The only thing I would say I would do differently is I'd probably use half pot on that flop.
Okay.
That's like about all I can say though.
Yeah, half pot's where mine's going to. So that'd be my size, and I'm assuming you don't bet range, but you probably bet a good bit.
What did you say your size was?
Half.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Just because, I guess, do you want me to compare this to Wizard or?
Yeah, I was thinking afterwards we could hop in and then compare to Wizard and do a little compare contrast. But I was just going to do this one first.
Sure, because I know it's going to depend on rake and whatnot, but I don't think there's much ace-jack off free betting for you.
Yeah, so I was thinking with like the early config, I think a lot of those offsuit jacks are actually probably not in my range. Okay, so
well,
in this case,
I know king queen's a mix,
yeah.
And I think king queen is usually 3-betting a bit more than ace-jack early versus early. Just the blockers coincidentally be a bit better. Yeah, I'm saying ace-jack pure folding at 500.
Yeah.
So you're gonna hit the jack high board a little bit less, but you will hit it with some suited combos.
Yeah, I forgot we didn't have any shared suits, right? It was rainbow.
I think we were also double blocking like a king jack suited. I think the jack was offsuit to our kings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think king of diamonds was alone, so it's probably 9 of hearts. Or sure, it's equivalent.
Yeah, okay. And we'll see if my bug fix actually worked. Okay. Yeah, so in this case, saying our hand obviously has a substantial amount of equity, 82.8%. Our range, 55. So we have a slight range advantage and a pretty large nut advantage here. These were says the ranges are. So yeah, it looks like I have king jack and ace jack suited, and then jacks, and then nothing with a 9. Whereas they do have 10-9, their defending range here. But yeah, not a lot of, and then jacks, I guess, too, because it's early, so they could have a boat. But anyway, so this was sort of the logic that of what we went in here. So I calculated something behind the scenes called MDF and actual defense frequency. That was just kind of like using some loose ones. But then it's going in and calculating the betting ratio and the checking ratio for each of these. Again, probably isn't going to be exactly reminiscent of a solver, but then it takes those ratios and multiplies them by the kind of like average expected value that we get from the pot. So in this case here, what do you say? It likes B90 or B120 as the two highest ones. We don't need to drill too much into that. But if I go here into B90, this is then the table that it breaks into. So this is saying that, and I did some rebalancing to make sure that it always has an accurate like bluff to value ratio. So in this case, it's saying our betting range is 64.8% value hands, 3% hybrids, and then 32% bluffs. And then it's just comparing the bet EV to the check EV, which the bet EV is just accounting for rake. It's basically saying, hey, what's our equity retained when we get called? And then what are the chances we lose? So taking that investment, so in this case, our $90 size, and then figuring out is are we making more based on our retained equity from their calling range. And then it's also then adding in fold equity just based on how often they're going to be folding. And then check EV is your landing equity, so the raw equity of the hand multiplied by the size of the pot, accounting for rake. So it's always going to be basically just 5% in this case, taken off of whatever the raw equity is. So 99.8 minus 5%. So that's kind of what we're getting here. And then I classified them all. So like a value hand is a hand that has at least 55% equity retention when called, and is called by worse at least half the time. It's just kind of a loose one. So as we dive in, and I'm obviously up high, what do you think like the bottom of the value range would be for this like B90 size, just based on kind of what I've described?
And probably ace jack, I think.
Okay, so we scroll down.
It's gonna actually, it'll be lighter than that. And for this classification, I think an issue I'm having with this structure is this is a node, and many imposition three pots are going to be this way, where
the
MDF you specified is going to cause out of position to over defend relative to what a solver does. Because I'm looking at defense versus B33, they're folding about 30%, for example.
Yeah.
MDF is going to say what, 25?
They're against B90, they're defending 50.
Against B90, it's closer to 55%, but I was talking about third pot.
Okay. Oh yeah, 30. Yeah.
Just as an example.
Yeah. So that's good. That's good. So maybe I just need to do a better job of approximating what like the actual defense frequency would be. That's one of the things I was thinking is like once I do the approximate and we know the betting range, then we would readjust the defending range to hit certain equity thresholds, or something along those lines.
I think it's something like that, or maybe you can make an approximation based on the range versus range equity on flop, because the more asymmetric that is, the weaker range is going to overfold.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's helpful.
But I guess given what your specification is, tens or any jack makes sense.
Yeah, it looks like in this case, tens, and then the concept here is right. So we're getting called by worse 58% of the time. We're retaining 57.6% equity against like that range. So then essentially it's just say, bet is better than check. And then it just shows some examples. And then it has some examples of hands that we're getting useful equity denial, I guess, as well, with like ace queen is folding, ace 10 is folding. Well, ace 10 isn't, I guess, still worried about the ace, but, and we're blocking most of it. So, but then eights, it's still liked a little bit as like a hybrid. I guess it just really liked the equity denial in this case, and it pushed it just slightly over. So it said in this case, eights would be betting. Do you think you would ever do that in real life?
I mean, I think you can play close to range on this board, especially for, oh, well, not for 90 actually, but
Yeah.
practically if we're talking about half pot, I don't know if betting range is going to be the solver output, but it's going to be a high frequency bet. So I think betting eights once is okay.
Yeah.
And then you kind of can't barrel the turn unless an overcard comes and the hand is just starting to bluff.
Yeah.
But it's for value. It's basically a single street. And
yeah, in this case, then we get into our bluffs. So most of our bluffs here that are showing, it says like betting's better than checking. And that's because I guess a lot of them are backdoors. Yeah, king 10 of hearts, king 10 of clubs. So yeah, basically all of our double backdoor, straight and flush draws are like the bluffs that it really likes, which I think that makes sense logically. And then we do start to pull from some hands. So like initially, if check EV is higher than bet EV, it was originally going into the checking range. But then in order to make sure that I had enough bluffs to justify like our value range, I start pulling from hands that, based on this rudimentary logic, pulled from check to kind of rebalance and have more of a theory approved. I know it's not quite as important on the flop because there's like equities are all over the place and you're allowed to merge. So like I basically classified like values and hybrids, and I'm trying to balance that relative to semi bluffs and bluffs. And I figure that would be kind of close. So yeah, some of the stuff like king 5, you're still wanting like the backdoors with suits, it looks like. Although king of diamonds, queen, that's gutter. It's pulling through.
I think one thing you might want to note for the bluff to value ratio is if you have a look at multi-street bluffing, you can do an example with the polarized range toy game.
Yeah.
The ratio is not the same as
river.
It is if you're making a river bet. You're actually going to want to bluff more on the flop.
Yeah.
And the turn, but the most on the flop. So usually, probably a ballpark value to bluff ratio is about 1 to 2 the other way, if I remember correctly. But like you said, it's really messy and all hands have different equities and they don't fit into that bucket cleanly.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the theory things that while you can prove it with a toy game, I don't know how applicable it's going to actually be in practical play or even a tool like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, and then if we look at the checking range at the same size, it's like ace king is like a hand that in this case it's saying that the checking, like your equity, there's too big of a gap when you're called on this board between what your equity was and what's retained. So it has the checking EV being higher than bet EV. So in this case, it filtered it into the check range. I'm imagining solver is still probably betting small, ace king.
Just with whatever size you pick, but I think all sizes are pretty fine as long as you don't go too big. This is, I imagine, a function of the, say, over continue from out of position. Of course, if out of position is over continuing, then betting ace king is going to do a little worse.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. Because practically, if we bet this size, they're supposed to fold a lot of pocket pair.
Yeah. Yeah. Which in this case, they're based on this threshold, their thresholds, they're folding 5s, but they're defending 6s. Which, yeah, that seems a bit aggressive of a defend.
And is that just like a function of 6s is a better hand than 5s, like in terms of absolute strength?
Yeah, and equity against range.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's where sometimes too, like right now the concepts in there, like 6s obviously don't have any redraw. And that's somewhat reflected in like the total equity. But I mean, a gut shot would probably be better to call it than 6s, I think, potentially. But
oh, definitely. But
yeah,
I assume that's
actually that might even be true.
Yeah, it's reflected here. It just those hands should have more equity.
Yeah,
but the only gut shot you really have is king queen.
Yeah,
8-7, I guess, is an interesting one.
Yeah,
that one's probably not super great.
Yeah, coming to B30, this is where we're going to see probably a lot more. Yes, in this case, there's hybrids and there's a lot more semi bluffs that are coming in at B30. In this case, yeah, they're only folding one hand that's, I guess, worse. but they just retain a decent amount of equity, I guess, when they're in deny equity when they're betting. So yeah, that was one spot. So I guess overall thoughts before we pull up another hand, or do you want to share maybe the solver output for that situation?
I can share the sim if you want, but I don't feel that it's super interesting. What I'm seeing is it's just a mixed size range bet between 33 and 50.
Okay.
Practically, there's about 5% checks. So that's simple enough. And then the response is out of position is just versus third. Say out of position is different with, say,
so
sevens and worse and ace queen.
So the biggest note that you're seeing so far on here would be just need to be a little bit more critical over what like those defending ranges are actually going to be, because they're probably over defending in my situation right now.
Yeah, I think we want to do some work on trying to predict the solver fold frequency, and I imagine there are multiple ways you can approach that. MDF is a good start, of course, but there are plenty of spots where you can make a better approximation.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Queen Jack, open it up. This would be nice if we could just get a big blind defend here. I think that would be this will be a good fun spot to look at, assuming we get it. Nope. I don't think in this rake I can do a lot of defending of 8-7 off unless it's for min late position, I would think, right? Not that it matters. Am I just going to walk? Okay. Actually, would you ever 3-bet this one? I don't know if you're digging that.
I think calling blind me blind is fine.
Okay.
I think it's a mix at this structure. I'm not sure though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that checks out. I just don't like folding them.
All right. Well, this one's not gonna. I mean, should I just jam with this guy in the blinds? Just I don't know, 16 bigs. I think I'm actually just gonna jam. Well, not jam. No, I don't want to jam. Sorry, he's got 108. I'll ISO, I guess. This isn't gonna be super useful to look at though. Are you kidding me?
Oh, brother.
He's an aggro fish. That's what I got him classified. I don't have like a ton of notes on him. I mean, I guess I got a call. And all right, sweet. Have aces. Have aces. What? Aggro fish is gonna check? I want to see if he'll do something stupid. Yes. Okay. Now I can just jam, right? Aces, aces, yes.
Oh my god.
Called it. Well,
That was an
a fun
interesting one.
I don't know if that's worth. There's no point in looking that one up, but
I assume it's only picking up, say, main lines and solver.
I mean, I just don't have any ranges for limp 3-bet ISO stuff. I could try to, like, I guess I could approximate it. But.
I don't know how worth it that is, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, here's one. So this one will be, oh yeah, I'm still in position. So this would actually be, if they check, it'd be kind of looking at what my flop stabbing range would be if I call this. So that could be an interesting one. And he should check this board, I think, a decent amount of the time. And then I feel like I want to just start bluffing already. So I think I stab small, and then especially if I pick up. Well, that's fun. This is where I start, in my experience, losing it pretty quickly. I think with the overs here and like the backdoor stuff, I still have to call against a balanced player. And then I'm just gonna jam. All right, what do we think about that one?
Interesting. What do I think about that one? So the way the like flop stab strategy, I think we just like on those favorable boards for us, we can kind of just mix like most of those overcard combos. Like I don't think stabbing ace jack is a mistake ever.
Yeah.
I don't think checking is a mistake either. And then I'm actually not sure facing the small check raise if you have to continue. I would guess like you probably do, and then maybe like fold an ace 10. Like it feels really cuspy. Like maybe an ace 10 would fold, and ace jack suited with the backdoor would continue, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm trying to read what size we're facing. So is it a third pot raise?
Yeah, it was really small. I think it is a third.
It's like
Yeah,
11 into
33 or 35.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's 11 into 38. Okay. Yeah, then I can't really see how he can fold.
Yeah.
Read the flop stabbing. I generally agree there is some slight amount of polarity to the stabbing range, so I would imagine probably ace queen is our most frequent check.
Yeah.
And this is pretty close to ace queen, of course.
Yeah.
So we can bet this hand. I would be surprised if it's a mistake, but I think it's one of our lower frequency stabs. It's probably so if range is stabbing on a board like this, I want to say about 60%, and this hand is probably 30 or 40, maybe 30 to 50.
Yeah.
So I'm on board with betting flop. It's probably good in practice. Versus the check raise, it's probably a worse line than in theory, but I still think calling's fine. And then turn jam is definitely not the play.
Yeah, I was gonna. Do you agree that like would we fold ace 10 spades, or like would we continue that as well to the small size on the flop?
Well, really, if we're facing a 25-30% pot size raise, we cannot fold very much at all. So I think we
Right.
probably have to also call continue ace 10 usually.
Mhm.
The risk reward is a little different here because it's not like it's not just a bet, it's a raise. So they're risking 18 here to win our 30 roughly. So we're allowed to fold a little more in a raise line than we are in a bet line because their odds are worse. They have to put in the call.
Yeah, that makes sense.
As
And
well.
we have like we stab like those like, or we can stab those like queen jack of heart combos and just buck those. So
yeah, we'll have some pretty
Yeah.
auto folds. So anything with a backdoor, I think, is already kind of on the mark of being a pure continue or high frequency continue. So our best backdoor overs are just going to continue. Maybe we can even 3-bet some, but just disregarding that, if we're talking about calling versus folding, those are in there, and then it probably gets close at around like king 10, queen jack, maybe.
Yeah.
Ace 9, ace 8. Because ace high is not all ace highs are necessarily better than the king highs.
Yeah. Cool. So this was a small blind. I mean, obviously, I don't have it built out to turn yet in my thing. Yeah, in my head, I was just like equity jam. Like maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm folding out tens or jacks there in practice. I don't know. Well, I would not jacks. I have a jack, but like, yeah. But
It depends on the player, but yeah, some guys probably will fold like jacks here, but I think most won't. So I imagine our fold equity is just coming from like ace king, ace queen, king queen.
Yeah, it's just their overcards that check raise flop.
Would you
sometimes and then check fold turn.
all by king queen.
Are we betting deep polar on the turn again? Like, are we using 1/3 to reopen here if we do?
I might go like 5th pot probably.
Yeah.
Or a quarter, something really small. Because yeah, basically they have a polar range over pairs, which are effectively never going to check fold at this kind of SPR, regardless of how we play the hand. And then just some really trashy overcards themselves.
Was cut off, ace jack of spades, cut off raise, small blind raise, cut off calls. And then our board was 4-6-3. I guess it's 6 of clubs, 3 is diamonds. At least I didn't make a mistake on my calling range, right? Ace Jack's a call.
Yeah, definitely. I
I
don't think 3 betting's good, or 4 betting's good either.
Yeah. So this is always in position. So like this table right now doesn't actually, it's not showing what the small blind is doing in this case. It just defers to cutoff because it's just easier to obviously make some of those calculations in position. So that's something I know I need to work on. But these stats are for cutoff. So essentially it's saying that 64% of my range wants to stab B60. It likes these bigger sizes a lot. I'm starting to notice a little bit, but here it's like B60, B90 are both really close. Similar range composition. It looks like, yeah. Anyway, we can dive into it, but oh, and then I guess, yeah, we have a slight range advantage on this board, but we still lack the nut advantage just because of the overpair. So probably, I mean, we know that from theory, that means we shouldn't have ever bet too big, I would imagine, this board. And then our hand has 44% equity. But if we dive into B60, all right, what do we think? We guess it's just based on what we saw from the last one. We think it's going to end up in the betting range or the checking range here. For B60.
Yeah, I think the method you're using is going to cause a pretty polar construction of most ranges, which makes me want to think this hand
Checking.
is likely checking, but not completely sure.
Yeah, ace jack of spades, 44.1% equity. And yeah, it's not even close on this one. It's like it really wanted to check it. Just because when called, yeah. They probably just condense way too strong around like pocket pairs when we call. So then we're just looking for our pair outs and backdoor outs, I'm guessing there.
Is this assuming we get checked range too?
Yeah, right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would do it too, because in reality we're going to be up against a weaker range.
Yeah, and they're going to be because they're going to be c betting realistically. Or it was what, like aces was probably what, like a half pot or like 2/3, I would imagine, something like that in this. I guess like in the solver, there's a construction somewhere around there.
You're talking about out of position size?
Yeah, small blind. Like I'd imagine
I'm seeing about 75%.
Yeah.
B75, and then whenever there's a betting range, of course, that's going to cause the checking range to be weaker. So both in theory and in practice. In practice, is probably even worse.
Yeah, and basically all of our stats are hybrids here. Nothing's like truly value. It looks probably like just 6s and 4s. I would imagine are the only are going to be our only. Wait, do I even have 6s and 4s? I don't have 6s or 4s. Okay, so I don't even have sets here. So yeah,
that's unlucky.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So yeah,
what are the base ranges from that you have pulled?
I got rake specific ones for 50 and L from what's it called? They just had a bunch of ones on free bet range. And then just for simplicity, I just made sure that frequencies were always at least 25%. So there was like no weird frequencies. It was always in increments of 25. So yeah, it's coming from the PokerStars. Oh, actually, it's PokerStars NL 25, 100 big blinds deep.
That's okay though. It makes sense that if you're rounding, not all the small pocket pairs are going to be in there.
Yeah.
Because it seemed weird that the 6s and 4s are missing. But probably if you put every pocket pair in at 25% frequency, then there's too many combos.
Yeah. So yeah, it likes betting all of this, like, yeah, anything with a draw. And so actually it's not super polar, I guess, in this case, because it's mainly, yeah, like 6-5s, 5-4s, 7-6, 5s. It is, oh yeah, so 7s, it's actually considering a value bet. Oh, because it's getting called by worse 54% of the time, and it's still retaining 55% equity, I guess, with the gutter. So that's actually looped into like a value bet there. Getting called by ace-6 diamonds, king-6 spades, ace-4 clubs. I don't, so.
Just board pairs.
Hmm?
Those are just board pairs, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then 10s, it's, why is it saying a 10 is a high? Oh, because the equity retention for 10s is not 55%. I don't know if I, like, I mean, so that's why that 10s are getting classified as a hybrid here. And then, yeah, so it's basically just likes betting with pretty much all of our pocket pairs, any draw. And then it's even bringing in some of our backdoor 2 overs. Yeah, clubs, spades, and diamonds of king, jack, and king, queen. King, jack is actually betting all of them, even without the backdoor flush draw. But it looks like that's actually not, it doesn't want to. The bet EV is actually lower than the check EV. It was just bringing in those bluffs to, because we're classifying hybrids as value for the ratio. So that could be some just immaturity in my approach too.
Well, how do you have a hybrid defined as currently?
Let me actually pull up the real definition. So this is basically like the full logic of like the guide that I'm using for my AI developer to like help me out here. So a value bet is considered called by worse at least 50% of the time, and you're retaining 55% equity. And then a hybrid is called by worse is over 25%, and your equity retained plus equity denied is over 55%.
Okay. Yeah, I guess makes sense that on flop, a lot of hands are falling into that bucket then.
And then a semi-bluff was, yeah, any over 15% folded better, and then you're retaining at least, I basically just use like, kind of just like force the 34% to basically be like, yeah, it's like an open-ender, got shot plus overs, something with like decent amount of outs for when you do get called. And then bluffs are just, you're folding at least 25% better, and then other is just the catch-all there. And then back on the checking range there, everything is, yeah, basically just most of our ace highs with over pairs are just wanting to check when assuming this that kind of logic there. So, any other thoughts on this before we judge other hand?
Well, I pulled up a sim if we want to look at that.
Yeah, let's look at the sim on that one. I also want to learn something about what I messed up on my turn.
Okay, do you want me to just share?
Yeah, you need to share your screen. That should work just fine, I think.
Yeah, okay. Just look all right?
Yeah.
So this is just wizard, 50 NL, 12 big blind 3-bet.
Yeah.
So because 50 NL rake, the defend range is pretty strong, pretty tight. I think that's gonna just pacify out of position a bit. You can see they're not doing too much.
Yeah.
On
that
flop.
makes sense as 6s and 4s weren't in there because they're not even opening enough to defend at a frequency that's high enough there. So, oh wait, never mind. That's 6-5.
They're opening too, but 4s isn't. And yeah, it's just
just so tiny.
These are all pretty low frequency defends. So when you get to flop, they're not too much in the bulk of the range. I mean, you probably have these 3 hands specifically and ace queen awful lot.
Yeah, mine was calling 10s pure, and then you have 75% 9s, 50% 8s, 50% 7s, and then you had drop 6s and 5s. Oh, or
Sure.
5s were in there 25% of the time.
Yeah, I guess this is an illustration of why having kind of all of these pocket pairs evenly distributed is useful for a
Yeah.
board like this. Not that it's particularly important. But yeah, I would have thought just intuitively that this board was a little bit better for the small blind than it was. I would have thought there'd be a little bit higher bet frequency. I don't know if this is just something I'm not understanding quite right. But yeah, I would have thought bet frequency is around 40. It's close to 40, I guess. 30 or 40. But anyway, fine. And then this is our stabbing frequency. Like we alluded to, it's pretty depolar. You're allowed to bet effectively anything.
Yeah.
I don't see a pure check. Even ace king, ace queen can bet. But the ace queen is the most frequent check. It's basically the range median.
Mhm.
Ace king starts to function as a value bet a little bit if you have it. And you can see this from the response. So these spots out of position, flop, 3-bet pot, you do see a lot of check raising. About 40% of the continues are through raise.
Yeah.
Which
and you play
is
Karatsky a decent amount, right? Is your name Gunther? I was so used to calling you Stonky internally in my head.
Yeah, that is my name. Yeah.
Cool. Like you played Garatsky probably a decent amount, I'd imagine, right?
Yeah, I have him tagged as like some kind of, I think, weaker reg. He uses like weird sizings, like he'll 3x open and stuff. But I think he is a reg. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What did I have him on mine? Yeah, I had him as just a generic reg. I
mean, there's some weird stuff going on in the sim.
Yeah.
Jack 10 all suits is pretty much a pure raise. But I think it's safe to say regs of all levels are going to get this wrong in certain ways, but
Yeah.
it's probably worse pretty dramatically as you start to play against weaker regs.
Yeah.
Maybe for a few reasons. I mean, it's possible these hands bet too much on certain boards, but on a board like this that visually looks kind of ugly, I think most decent-ish players will do a decent job checking
Yeah.
a lot of overpairs. And then the question is just where they find the bluff raises from,
Yeah.
if any. I think what's going to happen, in my opinion, is they probably fold more than this. I mean, maybe they call some king, queen, ace, jack off, and then they don't. So they might continue too much offsuit stuff. And then the suited stuff they might underappreciate. Because I think understanding that some of these hands like queen, jack, queen, 10 backdoor have to pure continue is something that'll get missed.
Yeah.
Because if we look at this, what that suits hearts. Yeah, all of these hands with the backdoor have to continue. It's a pretty substantial mistake to fold some of these.
Yeah.
And then even with hearts, there's a little bit of continuing, although these are mostly folding.
Yeah.
And then as we saw, the offsuit threshold is ace queen. So I think the offsuit hands probably get played kind of like this, and the suited region is what gets messed up. But yeah, and then this is versus a 35% check raise, which is a little bit bigger than we faced. We did go third on flop, I remember, right?
Yeah.
So I could, yeah, sure.
Yeah, close enough. I think it's close enough.
It's close enough, but I just want to clean up the tree because there are multiple raise sizes going on and stuff's a little messy. So I'll just run an AI quickly. It won't take long. Fine.
Technically, I bet B35 because I don't remember why. I was being weird with my hotkeys when I was in there. So it's 35, 70, and
Okay. I'm not gonna bother.
Yeah. But
So their raise size was something like this, right?
yeah, it was
I
like
don't know if you have
31
it.
or something. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess this response looks pretty similar to what we saw before, so not gonna look into this, just kind of judging our thresholds.
Okay, and I'm indifferent, I guess, looks like.
It's one of these. Ace Jack is different, but also so are all of these combos.
Yeah.
So solver is just kind of distributing the continues, so you don't have too much of one hand, because these all are pretty similar, practically.
And my ace is decently clean, right? Are they check raising with ace queen or ace king here?
Yeah, some.
Okay, yeah.
Probably more than you would expect.
Yeah.
So I think in reality, these hands are going to check call more, and the raises are going to come more from lower hands. But yeah, this is a fun spot because these hands are supposed to check raise, and they find themselves on turn, and it's kind of a tough spot to navigate. I haven't looked at the turn at all yet, but I assume, yeah, I mean, if you check raise ace king, ace queen, they'll fire. Sometimes they'll check others.
Oh, so they're jamming a ton on turn here.
Let me put it in a second size, but that's not too unreasonable.
Yeah.
We have a lot of middling equity stuff.
So my desire to jam is rooted in something. I mean, you see my standard deviation. I'll put money in.
Yeah, if you give a smaller size, then there's a bit of a split. But there are definitely some hands that have pretty clean incentives to shove.
Yeah.
Be it, yeah, the more vulnerable overpairs. Some draws that don't do super great on the check line, and then these are basically hybrids.
Yeah.
Because we have to call up some worse flush draw and stuff against it occasionally.
And so, like, my biggest fear to bluff then is going to be they're going to be. I'm worried about them trapping with aces if they check after. Yeah, that's effectively. It looks like they're not.
I'm pretty sure there'll be no jam for you, but I'll just include it.
Yeah, they weren't firing ace king, so realistically, like that would probably get a lot of stuff to fold.
Yeah, I mean the point is, so we can look at their checking. This is the range they checked here, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I guess you could also go back to this node, and it's effectively traps and then some give ups.
Yeah.
And some ace high. You can call this a give up if you want, but if we bet quarter pot or third pot or fifth pot, something in that range, then these hands actually begin to approach indifference, which is sort of what we're desiring to do with our turn.
Yeah.
Betting range in it. This is an effective way to get some thinner value with, any pair, basically.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, these hands have to figure out what they want to do. In theory, they're just indifferent. But if we jam, then these hands are not going to be forced to continue too often.
Yeah.
And it really just makes their life pretty easy, and they can just call their pairs and fold.
Yeah.
Most everything else. It will suck when they have a rare flush draw or something, or ace five, but the majority of the range is stuff like this and not the draws.
Yeah.
Because the draws are also going to have a high incentive to bet the turn themselves as well.
Yeah. Cool. Should I do another hand?
Yeah.
We've been here for a while. We can call it after one more probably then, unless you guys have more staying power. Yeah, these are the notes, by the way. My mind is so torn on whether I want to call you Stonky or Gunther now. Which do you prefer in a vocal setting?
Honestly, it doesn't matter. I'll respond to either one.
Okay. Yeah, these are the notes that I had on him. So, like, tight, which makes sense. Aggressive makes sense. Super disciplined, so he's like never playing cold calls, really. He's probably under defending a little bit from the blind, I would guess, from here. And then, yeah, they're super positional aware. He's stealing a lot, which makes sense from like the reg profile. And then he's in the quintile, so he's the lowest 25% continuer against 3-bets. So he is someone who's going to be, I mean, at this rate, that's probably actually the correct thing to do. But then the other interesting ones, post-star, so very volatile here. This means that he's in the top 25th percentile in 2 bets and 3 bets post flop. So he's in the top most aggressive 25th percentile of players based on everyone that I have data on. So that would at least indicate more justification for at least, I mean, it's probably hard to play more aggressive than theory, but you wouldn't want to deviate probably, I would imagine, against this profile, against the check raise with this trait having been identified.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because part of this could just be a consequence of them being a little too tight pre. Because if you're too tight pre, you're going to take a stronger range to flop, and then it's easier to play that aggressively.
Yeah.
Or it's correct to play that aggressively, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, the note system's neat. I remember looking through some of the stuff on one of your blog posts.
And this isn't situation dependent either. This is global. So like, I mean, because you need so many showdowns to even tell at a certain point. So like maybe this particular person never check raises in 3-bet pots and only does his check raising in single raise. Like I doubt that would be the case, but like theoretically, there's always going to be weird sub classifications and all this stuff. But and then he sees us bluffing a lot. I mean, maybe I'm a bit of a over bluffer after all. And then, yeah, so then this is what he sees us have. So this is our head-to-heads. So if we're playing Zoom, probably doesn't matter if we're at the same table. So he saw us have 3 bluffs for what I called like a big bet range. He only saw us have thick value once and thin value once. So probably not super useful in this spot, especially just because like since they are reggish, you probably just want to play pretty balanced anyway. But sometimes the meta can be interesting. Whereas like when we've seen them, they're using that big bet size for thick value a lot. They are going thin, and we only saw 7 bluffs for that size. So, I mean, actually, it's probably so they're probably under bluffing a little bit based on like those stats right there, at least for that size. I don't know. You don't want to read too much into this, but I don't know. That was just something that was sort of fun when I was messing around, like the right back capability in the poker tracker. But,
yeah, classifying what is thin value, thick value is also a fun puzzle. I know some people who do hand to note work.
Yeah. For those
try different things for river and whatnot.
Yeah, for those ones I actually just did. I just looked at all showdown hands on river. Where the bet or raise was called on those sizes, and then I just percent ranked it all to just kind of see where that line was of like what should be called and what shouldn't. Or not what should or shouldn't, but what was being called in practice across pool. So yeah, it's not it's close, I would probably say. Anyway, all right, let's go back to here. This is a good session. My big blind per 100 is killing it right now.
What have we played? 10 hands?
Something like that. 12. I think if cutoff opened, I might actually 3-bet this one. But I'm not going to 3-bet it. I don't, small size, I think you can call. So now when we pull it up, it'll probably be from their perspective because they're the in-position player. So this should be, I'm sure you have opinions on whether or not they should be c-betting that board. And for what sizing, it seems to be a pretty straightforward one because whether they're mid-position, so, or hijack. And this is actually one, I don't know if this is approved or not. I probably would want a backdoor flush draw 2, but I actually like check raising these like small bets on these a lot, especially readless on this guy, because I just think pool in general is just like they don't know how to handle it too much. I feel like the 7 is probably great for range because I mean, we don't actually have a ton of draws that complete there. It'll just be like, I guess, like 6-8, maybe 6-3. But then depending what they continue with, probably still bluff with sevens if we think that he has a king, but I'm going to default to showdown and check. And then against small, I mean, that's really small. That's like no, this is super small. Like a little under a third. I'm like, I think you got to go one. Well, that's nice. So my
Oh my
thinking
God.
is, I don't think I donk here. And if he has a king, he should go for one more street anyway. And then if he's bluffing, and so that seems like a safe check. And then I'm going to jam over any bet. And I hope he's not nitty and checks back ace king. There we go. Watch him have like fives or kings or something. Jesus Christ.
I had a hand so close to this when I started shot taking 200 for the first time. And I didn't check raise like in the ace X, but I think I did make like a loose peel on one of those king high boards and backdoor trips and then check shove river and got called by the boat. Like same exact.
What do we run into? I looked away for a second, but I saw we lost.
Yeah, so I will pull up the.
Oh,
So,
this
yeah,
is a hard hand.
Yeah, so
That's a fun
I
one.
called ace-7, which I don't even know if that's something I should be doing, but against the min, I figured I'm probably calling. I check raised flop 70%. Got called. They bet small on turn. I check called, and then I backdoor trips, and so then I check jams, and then he snapped me with a boat.
Yeah.
So maybe a mistake pre.
Yeah, I'm not sure about pre. It's just, I think it's probably just rig structure dependent. I'm not sure what it does at 50 NL against min from hijack. It was a hijack, right?
It's fine. It's min.
Yeah.
It's, the ace X is probably close. And
Yeah.
some of the bad ones are folding, and a hand like this is probably indifferent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For what
I've
it's worth,
noticed,
you can
like,
probably also 3-bet it if you feel like to, but it shouldn't be that
You'd
common.
continue like ace-5 offsuit before a hand like ace-6 or ace-7 offsuit as well. But I'm not sure against min. We just might peel most of them.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking it up. It's basically ace-8, ace-7, ace-5, ace-4 are the continues.
Okay, yeah.
And the others are about pure folds, but they're all 0 EV. Ace-5 is slightly winning, ace-8 is slightly winning, ace-7, ace-4 is 0.
The flop, I think, is probably good. I don't know how much I'm like allowed to raise in theory on it, but I like my combo for it. Like I could easily fold to any 3-bet, no matter the size, which I kind of like. And then there's some backdoor there.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure. I wouldn't be surprised to see this be okay, but we might want like an offsuit 7 to the king, so we can like block like a combo of like king 7 suited that would continue.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much that really matters actually, but that's like a pattern I would look for.
Yeah.
Just trying to organize it a
might
little
want
bit.
a diamond, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're not supposed to do this, but practically I can get behind this.
But then
in terms
I
of-
feel like on the 7 we would be betting a whole lot with range, and we might even just start like merging a hand like this into some sort of like semi bluff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where, because yeah, like it. Because a lot of our bluffs are gonna probably on the flop should be coming from like 6-8 type stuff anyway.
Mm. But then we also just turn like a bunch of like 6-7 and 7-8, and then
Yeah.
like I kind of our bluffing range picks up equity. So I think I'm not sure if we would like bet range here or not. I don't know
I've
how
seen-
good the 7 is.
I've seen similar runouts like this where turn is just a range pot or range over bet.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This seems somewhat close. Also, it's rainbow, which I think is good.
Yeah, I think that's better for us, I would imagine.
Yeah, but to Stonky's point, I mean, this card is so good for us because of two things. First, we're picking up a few new nutted value combos, and then our bluffs are also either
Super equity.
turning showdown or turning more equity, however we want to think of it.
Yeah.
So, and this is a card that Hijack largely misses. They'll hit it occasionally, but not in really that many meaningful ways.
Yeah. And I think I came to that conclusion of what our range wanted to do in game there, but then I overrode it with playing my hand, at least in this case. And then I think check call's fine for the size. Like,
I think if you check, you might have to check fold.
yeah, okay. Because I guess we don't want
The hand's kind of dead is the issue.
Or check raise.
Yeah.
You could. But we
And then
have
your river
so
is-
much. I don't know what our turn check raise or our turn checking range is going to look like, but I want to say we're going to have a whole lot of pair plus draw, and those are probably going to check raise before this. Even though this seems like kind of a nice check raising candidate face value. I mean, even just a hand like ace 4 is probably better for one, but we'll have 6s. Maybe we'll have 6-5s, 8-7. All of these have a lot more equity. So I think in terms of the turn showdown, we'll have, that we'll get into the checking range. This is probably pretty low down in there. We'll also have just some king.
Yeah.
These hands are all going to check call before ace 7, I would have to imagine, and I can think of plenty of hands that would want to check raise before this.
and
Even
ace is
ace
probably one of our
3 or
least
something.
favorite- The ace is probably one of our least favorite side cards, I would think, too, to go with the 7.
It kind of blocks some bluffs, and we have a problem on the ace river
Yeah.
and ace king and aces.
But then the river, I think, is straightforward. I think you have to go for it all with trips here.
I would probably donk the river.
Yeah, I was considering river donk. I wonder how like after the turn check call, like it sort of just looks like we have a 7 a whole lot. And like I wonder if a thinking reg will start checking back some like king, queen, ace, king.
Yeah.
They should, I would think.
All right.
But yeah, like our hand's strong enough to put in to try and play for it all, I would imagine, because he still has to defend some ace, king, and aces.
Yeah. I mean, he could have a 7. I don't know, 6-7. So like he could, but
7-8, yeah.
Yeah, he will.
Those are both gonna pure continue flop, I would have to
Yeah.
think.
All right. So what was that? Hijack versus big blind. So what was my?
Yeah, I want to say check raising river is fine, but on one hand it is a little thin, but it's probably just a check shove.
All right. So raise, fold, call, and then our board was king of hearts, 4 spades, 5 of clubs. So again, when I hit calculate, this is going to be from the perspective of the imposition player. So this is, imagine that you are hijack here when we start thinking about what we want to do.
Sure.
So I guess first instincts on what you think hijack's range and sizing would be.
Probably 1/3 and then close to range, like
Probably
maybe
third or
80%.
half, like 60%.
Yeah.
Don't think it's near a range bet really. Kind of a bad.
I wouldn't guess would be a range bet, but I would probably like simplify the range, but I wouldn't guess in theory with the 4-5 being disconnected.
Yeah. This is another one, like I said, like everything kind of, it's all obviously close together. But yeah, so you're seeing 66% at B30, 66 at B60, 70% at B90. And then, yeah, you're betting obviously less when you get into the overbet territory here. The highest one technically is B150. So we can take a quick look at that. Wait, what? Ace, Queen of Hearts, they're supposed to defend? No, that can't be right. There's no. Would you defending Ace, Queen of Hearts? Or that's Ace, Queen off. That seems wrong.
So what size? Is this the overbet?
Yeah. I think that's
the depends on constructing the range, but
yeah. The problem is this was the equity against our landing range, not our betting range theoretically. So it's still saying it had 46% equity on the flop when it landed there, but
it might also have something to do with like how linear I think this is building like the betting ranges. Like the ace might just be a super clean out because it might just check if it's using B150, it might just check all of its like ace highs, and then we defend our best ace highs.
Yeah. In this case, with this size, it has our value bet before it starts getting considered hybrid threshold all the way at King 7.
Any king.
Yeah. And then Queens, it's considering a hybrid because it's still getting called by pairs. And it's denying equity against a lot of those, ace highs that are starting to fold.
Oh boy.
And then jacks, 10s, 9s, it fits into the same bucket here. I would find hesitance to be able to implement that strategy, I think. But I guess mathematically, it makes sense. Like I understand maybe why that's happening, but they're really close, like 59.5 to 58.9. So like it would probably be like,
Oh, you know what? I think one thing that's not happening here is the check EV you have computed. That's just assuming turn river auto go check check, right?
Yes, correct.
So I think one thing that's not getting accounted for here is Queens, for example, can certainly bet once by the river on a check down line, and it's gonna get more EV than is listed in the check EV because of that. But I think currently this program doesn't have any way of realizing that. So that's why you're seeing this really dipolar approach, even for the big size.
Yeah. And I guess your equity denial is always going to be highest on the flop too, I would think.
Yeah.
But I would imagine there's also a symptom here of probably over defending. Because if you're defending 40% of range against a overbet on the flop, like maybe this is more of a practice versus theory, but like some of this stuff I mean like even fold like a 4 if it was me, but against an overbet.
Yeah, and you should fold some bottom pair.
So this will be one I think interesting to kind of see maybe like do a node lock with like a big sizing when we pull up the solver.
I'm trying to run some stuff now,
And then
so this is just saying like ace queen off is like our bottom 40% or like our top 60% of hands, and that's why we defend it.
Yeah. So in this case, like ace queen off is right at that between 59. So that's our threshold. But this is a good landing equity. I think one thing I want to do as well is if the betting range composition seems to make sense, I might just loop it through one more time so that we can then say, okay, based on this better approximated betting range, now we can start looking at our equity against that, construct the defending range that way, and then reconstruct the betting range one more time. And so it's almost kind of like maybe like a 2-step recursive process almost or something to kind of fine tune it a little bit. But I don't know how too much I want to like tweak it, but I do think at least one iteration to like dial it in a little bit better would be appropriate. If we look at a more normal size, like B60 here, this is then going to be our bottom of our pure value range is tens. Does that make sense for like a half pot bet, betting tens for value here?
I think you definitely could.
Yeah.
But to your point, like, and this is where I think I can do some analysis on like an investment ceiling, because I do think, and then like having some concept of urgency worked in, because it's going to be, if it's betting this thin on flop, it's probably going to need to do like a lot of checking on like future turns. I would think, just because like the ranges are, defending ranges are getting condensed.
That's normal enough.
Yeah.
Because you can bet for a third or
Yeah.
half if you want, or 60. Yeah, you can bet, I think, just about any pair on flop for semi-value reasons.
Yeah.
And you'll turn out okay.
Yeah. Lots of eights, nines, ace five with backdoors are betting as hybrids here. So middle pair with hearts and spades likes as like a hybrid candidate. And then, oh, offsuit ones too, actually.
Hijack is ace five off.
Yeah, I guess. Oh yeah, it has it in 75% on this one. Yeah. And then basically all the way down to ace four suited, still benefiting, I guess, from enough equity denial. Although, I mean, a lot of these examples, at least, of ones that are folding, like we would actually love to see an ace probably come up if they were continuing with them.
Yeah, those aren't particularly great examples against ace four.
Yeah, it's just like basic sorted. So they're not optimized for the hand. But
of course, stuff like Jack 10 is folding, right? So
yeah. And then Queen Jack. Yeah, so then this is where it's pulling in. Yeah, so because we're so merged here with value hands and hybrids, it had to pull a lot of hands that were previously it wanted to check in order to meet a bluffing ratio, which from your earlier comment seems like it's good because you can be betting or bluffing even more on earlier streets. So if you're going to be betting this thin, you can have a lot of other stuff that you're bringing in here.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good approach because, for example, here you have 50+% of hands classified as value.
Yeah.
At a certain point, that number is high enough where you can just bet everything.
Yeah.
That's effectively how range betting works. But that also functions because of the excess fold equity, which I guess we want to program into the response. But this is probably it's a good start because otherwise we saw in some favorable spots we were checking middling looking strength hands that practically or in a solver would be betting.
Yeah.
So this override seems to be a good way to fix this. Because I think without it, what's going to happen is you're going to end up checking too much on lots of boards.
Yeah.
Although maybe on the unfavorable boards, it works the other way.
Yeah. We're betting too much.
Yeah.
10-9 was one of the hands that actually liked for bluffing, 10-9 of hearts. So that makes sense, I think. Like 10-9 of hearts here is being like one of like a good bluff candidate. And then Queen 9 of heart or 10-9 of spades. So yeah, all of these we've actually let me just look at our bet EV relative to check EV here. Yeah, so the initial hands that it wanted to bet were Jack 9, 10-9, Jack 9s and 10-9s are the ones that are typically ones that I pre-wanted to bet. Yeah, 10-9 again. And then it starts pulling into your jack tens and queens is what it had to pull from the checking range in here to balance it out. Is kind of what this was telling us for B60. And then if we look at the residual then cards that wanted to check, yeah, it's all of our ace highs. And then gutter plus backdoor. It likes checking. So I guess in this case, it's just saying there's, I guess you just have too much equity on like other streets. It's just trying to realize our gutters with backdoors. Or just aces were all the high showdowns. I guess because all of our bad aces are gutters on this board. But yeah, then like these ace, even stuff like ace six, it's still like checking a lot more. So I guess it's just, yeah, it likes the ace outs too much. So it doesn't like check or betting. The gap between the retained equity and their current landing equity is just too high.
Yeah, I think a cool feature of this is the landing versus finishing equity, because that's something it's obviously very computable with software, but in game it's hard to build intuition for that at times.
Yeah. Yeah, because then even like GTOWizard, right, it's just telling you your equity of your range and of a hand. It's not telling you.
Yeah, they don't have anything about finishing equity to my knowledge. They really should put that in there at some point.
Yeah.
I can talk to the developers.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this one?
I have about 4 sims pulled up because I was playing with some stuff.
Sweet.
You want to indulge? Where is it? Okay.
The bright side is I still finished the session up $20 even after that. After that hand.
So this is the pre-flop range I was kind of reading about, but yeah, so pretty threshold defend. You're calling or raising about 45%. I think this is about what a defend to like a cutoff or button 2.5 is going to look like.
Yeah.
Because usually my approach is versus min, you want to defend about 2 positions wider, and versus 2.25, you want to defend about 1 position wider, roughly.
Oh, that's a good heuristic.
I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah.
So let's double check that to see if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Against the standard open, my threshold in big blind was ace 9 off. In what I pulled up earlier. So it makes sense though, because I haven't factored in the extra ranges for the smaller bet sizing there. But
so yeah, this is button 2.5, you're folding 60. Hijack min, you're folding about 57. So it's kind of close.
Yeah.
And is there a 2.3 for cutoff?
Maybe one of the GTO ones has it. Yeah.
64%. So it's somewhat close, yeah. Anyway, this stuff doesn't matter too much.
Well, it's cool to know that my A7 does appear to be a defend. I was not 100% confident in that answer.
Yeah, the study versus min raise is worth your time, I would say, because
it isn't different.
At least I face this.
Yeah.
A lot, maybe even more than 2.5 when you're dealing with first 2 positions nowadays. Yeah, so flop strategy. This is the default one. It's really messy with a bunch of sizes, not range. So you can read into this if you want, but we can explore that tree. But I just made one with 33 only. It's not range. So the EV for hijack is 2.74. If you do range, you give up 0.03, which is about 0.5% of the pot. So this is kind of up to you. Some people will say this is acceptable. Usually I don't range bet if you're losing 0.5% of the pot on flop, but
Yeah, that's
it's
where I
not a
do like
disaster.
anyway.
It's not a disaster.
Yeah, that's where I do like in my one thing. So like I track that probing trait, and it's funny. Like I'll look and be like, oh, they're very probing, and I just like check all of my. I mean, I would bet like obviously sets here because they could have kings and stuff to call with. But if I have the king, then I'm just like checking range sometimes when I see those very probing players, just to at least get one street from a check call and then fire a river. But
What street are you talking about? The flop or the turn or what?
on flop, sometimes if I see like that a player I have like auto tagged is like that very probing type, which would mean they're in the top 25th percentile of stabs, probes, and donks. And if I have a king on a board like this, I'll just check range to them, and then they just like stab or probe on the next street like 70% of the time.
Oh, check back range is what you mean.
Yeah. Mhm.
Got it. Yeah. That's fun. Yeah, so I was playing around with the raise size because there are a couple different philosophies on what you can do here.
A7 raised. Woo!
It's in there. It's not completely ridiculous. I was kind of thinking A6 is about threshold, but yeah, I mean the hand's okay-ish. The question is here. So for one, the raise size is pot. I tried a smaller size because one way you can think about going about attacking the range bet, supposed range bet, is by playing the smaller raise. I just don't find this works particularly well when you're dealing with early position because they naturally have a bunch of strong hands to continue.
Yeah.
And I would just play a more polar approach. So in fact, if you look at the big blind EV here, you lose a little bit by playing the smaller check raise, like 0.02. It's nothing major, but the bigger size is definitely slightly more optimal.
Yeah.
The issue is here. So if this were a wide starting range spot, say if this were button versus big blind, I'd be very on board to check raise this hand. And you can look button versus big blind. I'm pretty sure this is totally allowed as a check raise.
Yeah.
At those positions. And you could even play smaller sizes there if you want. I think I would still go big, but regardless. The issue with check raising flop is like this is the response you're supposed to see. They're supposed to fold some top pair immediately. As strong as ace king, technically, and solver. But even if they don't do that, they have to fold some of this offsuit top pair. And they don't really have to find any crazy continues. This is versus pot. But if you wanted to look at, oh, I should go to the range bet. So, but yeah, this is their continue after range betting versus pot check raise. And this is after half pot check raise. I know you went something in the middle, but just.
Yeah.
So if half pot check raise, they have to find a few, unpaired non-ace high combos, but these are relatively pretty looking hands. I think people kind of know nowadays that these should defend. And even if they don't, it's not a big overfold. And then it's just the ace high backdoors pretty much, but they don't need to call any ace queen or anything like that, even to small size. So I think if you check raise a medium size, the defense is going to be pretty appropriate. If you check raise a big size, you probably get an over defend, I want to say, but maybe it's just a misconstructed range because if you look at this, eights is a pure continue, right? These pocket pairs are also pretty frequent continues, but then a king is supposed to fold some. So a lot of inexperienced players will get this the other way.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not sure even if we suspect they're betting flop too much, because range is technically an oversee bet, right? If this is going to do great in practice, but I don't know. I fail to think it's that great, and I also don't think it's that bad. So
yeah, and my suspicion in game two of like thinking that maybe you needed two backdoors there definitely seems to hold out because like all ace sevens suited with backdoors are like pure raise. So that makes a lot more sense. I think it's easier to find too.
Yeah. I was gonna say even some of these hands are kind of close, but you have to be pretty careful when you're dealing with a stronger opening range. So hijack is pretty early-ish. But yeah, these and then a little bit of other 6x. It seems like 9-7 isn't enough. I guess a hand like this, you turn two open enders. Ace 7, you can only turn one.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, a 3 is a double gutter, but ignoring that.
Yeah.
And then,
So if I bet small, I probably can check turn more, whereas if I raise big, that's probably where we think I just need to keep firing.
yeah, I would agree, because if you're check raising smaller, there's going to be a little bit more top pair in the range.
Yeah.
Although, oh, this is not you. Yeah, here.
And if they're finding those queen jack defends, like I definitely have showdown value with a 7. I guess it's like that.
I mean, you don't have completely non-zero, but
Yeah.
the queen jack's supposed to bluff you by river.
Yeah, true.
But I think just on a check raise line, regardless of which size you go, a 7 is not going to be worth that much as a check down.
Yeah.
So just to look at the base response, you can peek at the turn reports.
I do have to take off now.
All right. Well, thanks for jumping on. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. You found it somewhat useful or entertaining.
No, it's very interesting to me.
Cool.
Yeah, I guess we can maybe reconvene some other time if you want to keep on doing stuff like this. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I
might
don't have too much more for this hand, so we can wrap up soon, or whatever.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you,
am
guys.
curious to see if it still jams. I would have to think it does, but
Well, spoiler alert on the sim I found, it was pure donking the river.
okay.
Well, actually, it was pure folding a turn.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But yeah, this is just a turn report in the main wizard tree. So some of these, the 3, the 6, the 7, the most interacting cards with their
Yeah.
straights, were effectively range betting or close to it. We're playing very aggressively. And this is either for 75% or overbet. So I think you could realistically play range bet for about pot.
Yeah.
So this is after the pot check raise. This is after the half pot check raise. I guess you're going bigger after half pot. There's just a bigger SPR.
Yeah.
And the main hands that check are just kind of this top pair that doesn't really want to put much more money into the pot. Just doesn't really know what to do. But even these hands bet sometimes, they're pretty much hybrids. Because
So that was one where I identified that it was good for my range, but I didn't account for how good it was enough, and so I let my hand over dictate what I wanted to do in that situation.
Sure, yeah, but this is a somewhat tricky spot because it's somewhat rare for a card to be this good for range, where you could basically just blindly bet any hand in range.
Yeah.
As an out of position player, this just happens to be one of those textures where it is. Because if you just look at A7 and you load into the hand here, I mean, you're not going to want to bet realistically.
Yeah.
But if you look at the response, yeah, you're getting a lot of fold equity from pretty much all better hands. And then you actually do get called by worse sometimes. But I mean, the main purpose of this is you're just bluffing.
Yeah.
Because you have a bunch of really strong hands. And even if you do get called by worse, it's not clear that you're trying to show this down. So if we get a 9 river,
Yeah.
not really sure what A7 is doing. It probably checks, but okay, it does show down for a bit, and you bluff other stuff. But you're definitely bluffing some pairs. So a 5, you're bluffing, right?
Yeah.
And then a 7 is kind of stuck.
What's interesting, so if you're going pot and then calling, and then let's say it was our 7 again, like they condense down a ton to like predominantly. There are a lot of sets that they were calling with there. Like, so that could be a situation where if you bet pot, do you still jam a 7 river when I guess there's still a lot of ace king, but that's.
It looks like it. It looks like it, yeah. Only about, it says 13% of the range of set, so it's not very scary, really.
Okay.
They have some 2 pairs. So they'll have a maximum of 15, 16% votes, but I mean, we can look. I don't know if it was the 7 of spades, but yeah, I assume shove is good. Yeah, plenty of equity.
Okay, cool.
85. It's not like you're a huge favorite, but you're in good shape. But maybe you play some smaller sizes here as well, because no, it's probably just shove. Yeah, you have trips that are straight. These are all strong enough to jam on
Yeah,
this line.
Down, it's doing 7-6. It's still jamming.
Any 7.
Because then I imagine they're calling off the rest of their kings.
At a frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just happens to be thick enough. I mean, you do run into better hands sometimes.
Yeah.
Where was I looking at? Okay. This one on the 7. Yeah, if you do check, which is not ridiculous, because betting range on turn would be overly aggressive and probably cost a bit. Oh, it's actually pretty bad. Okay. So I think that the thing to note here is there are hands in range that are kind of important to check. Even though it might not seem like it from this, I think you just run into a problem if you bet all of your king X.
Yeah.
Because these are functioning as hybrids. If you start betting all of your bad king X, then ace king is just a really happy call, for example, or king queen. And then you also have a couple just completely garbagey bluffs like these. So if you get here with 3s, you can't bluff that. If you get here with a 4, you usually can't bluff it. Or 4 no draw. Yeah.
And then
But, so
just trash, even though it has a gutter now, I guess. So maybe
I didn't notice we had this, but yeah, it's really terrible.
So A7 does
these are already losing at equilibrium.
Yeah.
And if you force out of position to range bet, they're going to lose even more, because then Hijack's going to defend more.
Yeah.
Some of these.
And not that I'm worrying about combos, but is A7 mixing or mixing all suits? Yeah, it's all suits. Okay.
I don't really see a big suit importance here, right? I can't really come up with too much.
Yeah.
I guess the ace of diamonds might be slightly better, but again, not really. Because they're not calling that much backdoor flush draws to the flop raise anyway.
All right.
But yeah, after the check.
And then just check folding my entire.
Okay, you're continuing versus 25, but I think versus 33.
Yeah, and they were a weird size. It was 5.3 into 17.
What is that? 30%? That's probably
30%. Yeah. I wonder if I might have that setting where like I show the pot post rake. So if that's the case, maybe it actually was like closer to 20 and it was like 20.
Oh yeah, ACR does that.
Yeah.
I think I had to turn it off because it kept on confusing me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But basically we have a not very great hand.
Yeah.
Even though it looks like we have a pair, we turn the second pair, we can't fold. A lot of their stabbing range is beating us. And a lot of the stabbing range that isn't beating us has an ace, which we block.
Yeah.
And the ace out is also not super live despite that, because ace king aces are in here quite a lot. Check raising it is interesting. It seems like you can, ignoring the ace of diamonds, but I'm not super concerned about that blocker.
Yeah.
At the moment. You do raise this a lot. So we are supposed to play check raise and then get this really good turn and then check again and then raise them. So that's a hard line to find.
Yeah.
With value. You have to be pretty conscious of this. Because it is very easy. It seemed very easy to me to like check raise 8-7 or 7-6, get this turn, check again, and then check raise the imposition stab.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to get perceived by your opponent, but to me it seemed like that could easily be an overbluffed line. But if you're not careful, because it's just on a favorable turn, I think people tend to just front load their betting range and not play checks with too much strong stuff. But anyway, after this, I can just continue using this tree. Yeah, I saw some
Yeah,
donking.
it's donk jamming. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, let's put some other sizes in here because I don't know what exactly is going on. Yeah.
What are my bluffs if I'm donk jamming? Like I've tried to ace 3. Okay. So you're
Okay, I'm gonna take out jam because it's using 125 pretty much, and then we can maybe see. I guess you have some ace 3. Yeah, that's it.
better
It's a
play.
very narrow range, but I think the idea here is if you don't, so this is the base tree, and they're already indifferent with ace king, and they're not really supposed to reopen a king much.
Yeah. So then if
Which
they're
I think
only
makes
betting-
sense because, I mean, you river a lot of trips, and you don't have that much top pair left in range to check call, and then other than that, you just have a bunch of air.
Yeah.
So, for example, if we force range check here, I'm pretty sure imposition is just not going to reopen much at all. Yeah, only some aces and then boats and trips and all this stuff. Because I saw this line here. Yeah, this is the imposition response. Apparently, they're just supposed to play jam check, which is pretty interesting, but I think makes sense. Because after turn check call, they do have a nut advantage even on the 7 in the way of just a bunch of boats.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of playing boats versus trips, and they're just not bothering trying to value bet a king. But I do think there are players who will go wrong and bet a king just because it looks like a nice hand without the context of the polarization that's happened on the line. So this hand is really crazy.
Is king 8 playing as a bluff there or as a value bet because it blocks straights?
This might be a merge. But
were we calling with like jacks or something? Like, or we wouldn't have jacks. Are we calling with like 9s?
I can't really see how we ever have 9s.
Yeah.
It's probably just a bluff. I mean, it blocks
Yeah.
8-7 suited, some
Mhm.
8-6. 8-6 probably is going to check raise turn all the time, but yeah, that's. Then there might be slivers of stuff we call. Maybe we call 5-4.
Get frisky with some ace high? No. Oh, king 5, counterfeited king 5.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's ridiculous, but that's a wild find.
Yeah.
But it's funny to see how little king 8 checks for. It checks for 2 big blinds. And this hand really does not have much equity. Yeah. That's only because big blind is donking a lot of air. If you force big blind to check, then this hand will check for more. But it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Whether this air gets donked or not, you just win regardless.
Yeah. Cool.
This is a fascinating hand.
Well, I'm glad we got some good ones with we played 16 hands and 2 stacks were exchanged. So like it's about as much action as you can pack into 16 hands, I think. So
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks. What I'm probably gonna try to do over the next maybe like week or so is I'm gonna try to, I think, maybe build a little more intelligence into the defending range, and then maybe we can kind of like take a look at how it fares and if it starts making a little bit more sense there. But it sounds like the biggest opportunities are trying to get closer to what defense frequencies would look like given some of the range advantage like dynamics and things.
Yeah, I think the straight MDF calculation for now, for example, will work well in the out of position 3-bet pots.
Mm-hmm.
But some recalibration for
Cool.
spots where the defender is just getting destroyed.
Yeah.
Will help. Because right now the B90 defense is kind of playing like the actual defense to half pot. Seems like roughly what's going on.
Cool. If if theoretically, right, like we got that calibration in a little bit and then use that to do some like automation of like grading or a session or flagging potential like leaks, do you see it having value kind of like as is if we started like feeding in like the actual hands played into that type of a calculator, or you see it more as like a standalone, just kind of understanding a spot with like the landing versus finishing equity being more of like the value add at this point?
I think it definitely could have value. I guess the concern is if you're comparing a tool like this to a solver, I mean, it's hard to trump a solver at this point.
Yeah.
I think if you just want accurate outputs, but it's definitely interesting to play around with, and I'm sure you can learn some things from it.
Yeah, and I think the real probably, I guess, value would not necessarily be in like the equity playing around. That was more just me trying to, I think, yeah, it's fun to play around with, and then it allows for some automation. What I'm kind of envisioning would be is like, let's say you finished like a session, and then it would use it to be like a rough approximation of like, hey, your range wants to bet 2/3 of the time. Your hand definitely wants to bet. You didn't do either. So that's a mistake, potentially, unless, and then that's when you factor in the MDA part of it, where we know that you're up against a player of this type. And then presumably if there's more users, given the way that I've architected this, is that like kind of like sharing anonymized showdowns is really straightforward. I think that's probably where you start getting some more of those insights where it's like, hey, this isn't a solver, but approximation of theory, this is a mistake, and there was no good reason to deviate based on what we know of like this player type of pool. That's kind of, I think, where the sweet spot sort of ends up becoming. But
I do think the player classification part can definitely be a powerful tool.
Yeah, and then having some of the notes right back so that it's more accessible. Because the other thing that, I guess it depends on how you study too. I don't have like the attention span to get really deep into solvers sometimes because it just seems slow. So like maybe there's still value in accelerating hands to review, because we found some things that like this found that you maybe didn't play well, and then that allows you to condense your dedicated study into a solver, and you get instant feedback because you literally finish a session, you hit sync hands, and then 2 minutes later it's graded your session and then told you some hands that maybe you should look into or try to study more or something. So
yeah, that's true. It's a useful way of flagging areas you might be weak in. It's kind of like doing a database review, but in a much more accelerated.
Yeah. Well, cool. Appreciate the time. We spent a lot, so I hope I didn't distract too much from your studies.
No, that's good.
All right. Cool. Well, have a good one, and yeah, I'll probably, you'll see an update in the blog, I'm sure, but yeah, maybe like in a couple of weeks we'll have something else to play around with.
Sounds great.
All right.
See you.
Cheers, Justin.